I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make a new directory, and we're going to call this one build a Node.js app, and change directories into there. I don't know why I'm doing this all from the command line. You could totally do it from here, from the File Explorer too. So first thing, I want you to make a new file in here. I want you to call it index.js. And I want you to just come over to the course web page here. We're going to go into the build a Node.js app and just copy and paste this. Like I wrote just like the most like hello world server ever. Go away, EOSLint. No one cares. This is not a Node.js class. I don't expect you to understand literally anything on the board there. This is more about packaging Node.js applications than it is about Node. But suffice to say, it imports the HTTP core module in Node, creates a server that it'll console log every time it receives a request, and then it'll respond to the user with the sage-old wisdom of, oh my god, hi. And then it starts the server on port 3000. There's lots of great Node.js content on Frontend Masters, so definitely check out that stuff if you want to learn more about it. All right, so if you want to just see, like if I say node index.js, you can see there it says server started. And if I go over here and say localhost 3000, you can see up there very tinily it says, oh my god, hi. You'll see there that it said receive request twice. That's because when a browser opens a web page, it also requests the favicon. That's why it's there twice. I know someone was going to wonder about that, so it's the favicon. Okay, so Control C to stop that. Let's make a Docker file that containerizes this application and then runs the server for us, right? So what I want to do now is I'm going to create another file in the same directory, and I'm going to say, call it Docker file. I'm going to say, as you might imagine, from node 12-stretch. We're going to say copy, and we're going to copy index.js to index.js, right? So copy it from source to destination, right? And then I'm going to say command node index.js. There you go. Okay, and now I need to build my Docker file, right? So I'm going to say docker build, give it a tag. So -t instead of --tag if you're lazy, like me. And I'm just going to stick with my Node app. This will overwrite whatever was there before, but I think we're OK to leave the console logs behind, right? I don't know, some of you look pretty sad. So docker build -t my Node app, and then we'll put period to let it know that we're in this directory here. And you can see there, from Node, built that, copy here, command here, good. Now you might be wondering, why is it putting these hashes in here? That's because every one of these is actually technically a valid container at every single level, right? So I actually could just execute this one before it got here. And that's the way that Docker does its caching. It's like, okay, this is a valid container up to here, and then it just starts from here if you only change things in here, right? So if I don't change index.js, it'll just restart from that point again, right? So that's why those numbers are there. We'll get more into like best practices of Docker files, but for now, just know that that's why those are there. So now I can say docker run my Node app. There you go. Server started, right? So our Node app is now running inside of a container. Problem though, if I come over here, it says unable to connect. Well, why is that? Well, we didn't share the network with it, right? So remember namespaces, right? That thing that we talked about a little while ago? it's intentionally limited off from the outside world, right? We did not give explicit permission to this container to talk to the host network. So it's all contained inside of it, and it's trying to reach out, but the host operating system is like, no, you don't get to talk on that port. So let's do that. Let's make it work on that. Oh, here's another fun thing that I forgot to tell you about. Try hitting Control-C. This is what I was telling you before. Node does not respond to these sort of processes. So what's happening is I'm saying Control-C to Docker. Docker is then passing that along to Node, and Node's like, I don't care. Right? So there's a couple things you can do here. The best thing to do is you should go inside of your Node application. And again, this is not a Node course, so I'm not going to show you how to do it. But you would say like process.on sigterm, right? And then you would go through and do all that kind of stuff. Not going to do it right now, but that's the correct way to do this for a Node developer. So the first thing I'm going to do is like let's actually stop this because it has to stop. So I'm going to just say docker ps, and you can see here my Node app right there. Pedantic Goldstein, please Docker kill the pedantic Goldstein. So now if I go back over here, you'll see that it's gone, right? So the next thing I'm going to show you, if you run this with docker run --init, this runs it with a module called Tini, T-I-N-I, which is init backwards, right? And so it kind of proxies that process, and then it will shut down for you, and it will automatically shut down Node for you. So if I do this again with that, and I hit Control-C, Tini will actually go in and kill the Node process for me. So it's kind of like a little hack that I don't have to go and handle those sigterm events. It'll just do it for me. So you'll start seeing me run that --init and probably --rm now, just for pure laziness factor that I don't want to go do that myself. You could run this in production. If you really are going to run it in production with Tini, with the --init, I would just suggest going into your Docker file, installing Tini, and then executing Node from Tini so that it's just built into the Docker container. Otherwise, you'll forget. You'll run some production server, and you can't shut it down. Kind of a problem, right? So, all right. So now I want to expose that port, right? I want to punch a hole through that container so that I can expose that port 3000 to the outside world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say --publish, and I want to take port 3000 and I want to expose it on port 3000, right? I could do some routing and like expose this on port 8000, right? But I'm not going to. So now if I run this, server started, port 3000, and now you can see here it says again, Omega High, right? And it says request received, so on and so forth. And the way that we did that is by the publish 3000, 3000.
So you don't put that in a Docker file, you just put it into the CLI?
So I think literally the next section is about, well, so there's a thing called expose inside that you can put a command inside of the Docker file to do it. But I would suggest doing it through publish, because that's something more that you want to determine at runtime, and expose doesn't necessarily work that most people expect it to. So let's just go with no. But good question.